Great to be here. I'm really excited about this. So for me, this is one of the really fun things for me to be talking about. Can you just show me how to close the notes?
Yeah.
Just get my technical team to help me. I am the least technical person in the world. I think it's this one.
Yeah, sorry. This?
Yeah, great. Fantastic. There we go. I need a full technical team to do this. I've got an IT director, I've got a priest, a psychologist. I need full support. But I'm here to help you today with pitching your personal value. Now, one of the things that I think is really, really important in this modern attention economy, it's not enough to have skills and talents and experience. You also have to be able to tell the marketplace about that knowledge, wisdom, and experience. So my journey to being here today started actually back in 1988 when I was rocking this amazing mullet back in Sydney, Australia. And I was working in a factory running a drilling machine. And I like the laughing emojis coming up right now, well deserved. But I was running this drilling machine in a factory and I was, working on the night shift running this machine. And the boss of the factory, we'd have meetings and I'd meet the owner of the company. And one day he said to me, he goes, I think you have really good communication skills. So I'm going to take you out of the drilling room and I'm going to bring you upstairs to the office and I'm going to turn you into a salesman. And so he took me upstairs and he put me in a suit and he sent me out on the road as a salesman for this company. And about a year into the job, there was a real turning point moment because he said, I want to send you on a course, an NLP communication course, neuro-linguistic programming, which is about where cognitive psychology and language intersect. And this really was a kind of turning point moment in my life because that turned me into not only a better communicator and a coach, but it actually gave me this set of skills that enabled me to coach people. That led to coaching individuals and teams, and that led to working with companies right up until today, where I've built this international career as a speaker and a coach. And I've had the opportunity now to do workshops on 4 continents, do webinars to 43 countries. I think I've spoken in 20 different countries, in person. So it's been an amazing, amazing journey. But one of the things that's been absolutely critical, because I didn't finish high school, I didn't go to university, was I worked out how to pitch my value. I was really good at climbing the ladder by convincing people of my value because I didn't have qualifications. So today I want to give you some of the secrets to that. And the reason about that is if you have a job interview coming up or an important meeting, maybe you're going for a promotion in your company, this is not just about the interview that's coming up. This is about the rest of your working life. It's the rest of your professional life. And I often go back to this slide of Bill Gates. I just showed my plan to 1,200 people when he started Microsoft. And I always think about this first number, that he had to talk to 1,200 people to get Microsoft started. And in our professional life, we're meeting people all the time that can help us, elevate us, introduce us to opportunity. And so what we want to do is to be able to go out there and pitch our value in a really compelling way. And I think the other thing is that we've seen over the last decade a huge tipping towards personal brand. And even the biggest companies in the world, their CEOs have many more followers than their actual companies. Now, this slide's a few years old, and I'm sure the numbers are even bigger now, but you can see that Tim Cook has twice as many followers as Apple. Bill Gates has, more than double. Elon Musk has 10 times more followers personally than his companies do. And that's because of the magnetism and of personal brand. People love personal brand, personal stories, because they're much more powerful and magnetic than company brands and company stories. All right. So I think knowing how to pitch yourself is now a critical professional skill. It's not a good to have, it's a must have. And we're in a very, very competitive professional environment. So it is critical for us to know how to pitch ourselves and to think of that as just a critical skill as whatever it is you do, marketing, communications, HR. Actually knowing how to pitch yourself is going to be even more critical in the age of AI as well, because differentiating yourself in the market is going to be even more critical. So my name is Malcolm Larri. I'm the founder of Brave Personal Development and Leadership and Culture Consultant here at Hammer Hanborg, originally from Sydney, Australia, but I found a Swedish wife and she imported me to Stockholm 15 years ago, and I am now Stockholm's or Sweden's happiest love refugee. I love being here. And as I said, my background is neuro-linguistic programming and certified workplace trainer. And I'm working every day with leadership and culture and communication in companies large and small. All right. So let's look today at what I think are the 4 elements of being able to communicate your personal brand. First is your value proposition, which we're going to spend a bit of time on because for me, this is the game changer. When you know your value proposition, your superpower, it makes sharing your value much easier. Then we're going to look at how to construct an elevator pitch. We're going to look at a journey story. How did you get where you are? And then we're also going to just finish off with reputation, because I think reputation is something we should be building all the time. And we should not leave reputation to chance. We should take control of that. All right. So we're going to jump in. I would love to have you jump on the chat and let me know, what is pitching? I would love to see from you, what is pitching? I would love to have you jump on the chat and let me know. I've got the chat set up next to me. I'll get that down to the bottom. What is pitching? I would love to see your answers. Jump on the chat and tell me. I would love to see. Selling yourself, your brand, great. Fantastic, interesting questions around, fördelning, fantastic. What about införsäljning? Yep, selling yourself, a short form value proposition, brand idea, product. Thank you, Andreas. Presenting your powers. Thank you, Sam. A summary of your offer. I love that. Who you are, what you offer. Sell yourself in 30 seconds. Okay, that's an elevator pitch, as you said. Can be both, right? Anyone else? Jump in and let's have a nice interactive session here. Sell yourself in 30 seconds. That's great. I really like that. And one of the things that we can see, when we're talking about pitching is that we're often thinking about, pitching as something that we do to sell a product or service, but it's also something we need to do for ourselves. And pitching for me is 2 things. Pitching is sharing an idea in a way that allows the listener to understand its value and make them want to take part in what you're offering. So when you do a presentation, you might be just sharing an idea, but if we can share the value of an idea really powerfully and make the audience understand it, and then make them want to take part in what you're offering, that's a pitch. So those 2 things are the really critical parts, value and then a call to action, making them want to take part in what you're offering. And out in the world of products and services, I think this is a good way for us to begin this journey and understand it, is that, out in the world of products and services, people are demonstrating value all the time. Now, about 7 years ago, I was hosting a conference in Amsterdam, and this pricing expert, a Scottish man named Rory, stood up and he said something which was a light bulb moment for me. He said, there's no organ in humans for understanding the value of something. We only know the value of something because we're shown the value. So I'll never forget that Scottish accent just burnt on my brain. Showing the value. I loved it. But out in the world of products and services, there's only two things happening all day long. Value gets demonstrated and value gets perceived. And if we think about this for ourselves, we have to demonstrate value to the marketplace so the marketplace can perceive it. And of course, the better you are at demonstrating value, the more you can ask from the marketplace. And we see this all the time. And, you know, these Hermes handbags, which I think are kind of ugly, they sell for $2 million US. $2 million US for a handbag. I don't understand that, but there you are. So one of the things that I often think about is, how is it that somebody will pay $2 million US for this Hermes handbag when, in terms of functionality, that bag does nothing different than a 5-cent or 5 krona supermarket bag, does it? Whatever you could put in the Hermes bag, you could put in a supermarket bag. But the Hermes bag, of course, people want the status that comes with it and to be seen with it. So from my perspective, they've demonstrated so much value that people will pay $2 million for it, go on a 5-year waiting list to get the bag, and you also have to know somebody to get you on that waiting list to spend $2 million and wait 5 years for it. So out in the marketplace, value's getting demonstrated all the time. And your job is to demonstrate your value in a way that makes you the most valuable version of yourself professionally. So, as I said, I think knowing how to pitch yourself is now a critical professional skill. And the place that we begin is with a value proposition. What is a value proposition? If you don't know what your value proposition is professionally, and you can't say it quickly and clearly, then the marketplace is not going to understand it or know it either. So jump on the chat and tell me, what is a value proposition? Get those fingers busy. What is a value proposition? This is one of the most important business communication tools, the value proposition. It's an elevator pitch, someone said, being specific about your idea. Thank you, Marlin. What is a value proposition? USPs, great. A couple of people here saying USP. That's great as well. What else? Anybody else? What is a value proposition? Don't be afraid to give it a guess. It's not a test. You're not going to get marked on this. But I think that, if we can understand value proposition and start to see how companies use it, we can steal that and use it for our personal pitch. What can I do for you? Thank you, Elsa. I like that. Värde erbjudande. Thank you, Matthias. That is the Swedish translation indeed. So it's the value offering that you have. But I think a great way to think about it is this. It's the promise you make that you can never break. So you have 2 or 3 things that you bring together that make you a very unique promise to the marketplace. And this will become clear over the workshop. But what I would really like you to think about is, how do companies addict us to their products? What is it that they say to us that makes us buy from them again and again? And if you think about this as a promise, the value proposition, värde erbjudande, what can I do for you, your USP, you start to see that companies that we're addicted to, that are the biggest, most successful companies in the world, have a promise they never break. They keep their promise to us, and you have been doing the same thing in the marketplace. And today we're going to discover what that is. But if we just think for a minute, we're just going to stay with companies for a minute, because it's an easy place for us to learn and understand this concept. If we take a company like Apple and we consider their value proposition, their promise, like the sun in the middle of the universe, and we consider all of their products, the planets that orbit that promise, Apple come out with a desktop computer and then a laptop, and then they come out with an iPod and then an iPad. then they come out with a phone, and then they come out with AirPods, and they come out with a watch. All of those products that they have built that have been incredibly successful, and the iPhone is the most successful product of all time, have all orbited around a promise that they have never broken over 40 years. And we have to center all of our skills and experience around a value proposition and promise so that we can communicate it to the marketplace. And a lot of people, when they're talking about their value to the marketplace, they've got such broad experience that when they explain it, it sounds a bit vague to the marketplace. It sounds a bit random, like I'm a beauty parlor, chainsaw repair, nightclub. And people are like, you what? It's like, yeah, I'm a beauty parlor, chainsaw repair, nightclub. I don't know who gets their hair cut at a chainsaw repair company, but I wouldn't want to go there. I think for us, it's to become clear. We do not want to be a beauty parlor, chainsaw repair, nightclub. In the way we pitch ourselves to the marketplace, we have to consolidate all of our knowledge, wisdom, and experience into a much better value proposition than that. Another just quick example of a value proposition, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, but there's this poster from a marketing book from the 80s, women's karate lessons, $5. Never be afraid to walk down the street alone again. So the value proposition there, become fearless, it's really clear. Who would not pay $5 to never be afraid to walk down the street alone again? Everyone would. So as you go about your professional life, I want you to become a detective of value propositions and get very good at them, because once you understand value proposition, you can elevate every single business communication you have, as well as pitching your value to the marketplace. So let's just do a quick little exercise here. So I would like you to think about 5 successful companies, and we're going to go through them one by one. And I want you to tell me, what is their true value proposition to their customers in just 2 words? What's the value proposition of Amazon? Jump on the chat and tell me. When you think about Amazon shopping, what is the promise of Amazon shopping that keeps you going back? What keeps me going back? I buy like 50 books a year that I don't read from Amazon because, well, their value proposition. Fast and easy. Everybody jumping on the chat and answering. The more people that are answering, the more dynamic the workshop will be. Yeah, so fast and easy. Thank you, Lilimore. What else? What is the 2 words that you associate? Convenience. Yeah. Effortless. Great. Fast and easy. Thank you, Cecilia. Effortless. Thank you, Elsie. Thank you, Anna. Convenience. Effortless. Every title. Great. Now we're starting to see that they have all of these things together. What else? Fast and easy, effortless. So we can see that everyone starts to say the same kinds of things. They start to have the same kind of words coming up. I'd love to see more answers coming up. Everybody jumping in and participating, please. So if you think about Amazon, we get effortless, convenience, everything's in one place, it's easy. And Jeff Bezos called this frictionless shopping. That's what he called the promise of Amazon, frictionless shopping. So that was his 2-word promise. And he told his team, our job is to make it easier and easier and easier for the customer to buy. Let's take all the friction out of buying. So Amazon, frictionless shopping. What about Airbnb? If you think about Airbnb, what are the 2 words that you would put with Airbnb? Come on, everybody jumping in and answering. Let's have a great interactive session. Airbnb, what is their promise to the marketplace? Really good. Really great answers coming up the first time. Easy, comparable, cheap lodgings. Yep, it's cheap. More answers, please. Keep coming. Community, home away from home. Thank you, Anonymous Del Tagare. Local experience, home away from home. This is great. Thank you, Lisa. So we start to see local, home. And so for Airbnb, flexible, good, accessibility, easy. Thank you, Anders. These are great answers. So for Airbnb, their promise is home anywhere. Works for the buyer and the seller. Really great. Let's do a couple more. McDonald's, a place that I've been eating at for 50 years. Why do I keep going back? Can't be for the food, because there's much better food. What is it about McDonald's? Consistent. Thank you, Anna. Fast food's the category. Yeah. Fast food's the category. Fast, cheap, familiarity, and consistency. Boom, Lisa. So Lisa nailed it. Consistency. So McDonald's value proposition is same every time. Or if you like, no surprises. They give that familiarity, consistency. I walk into a McDonald's in Antwerp a couple of years ago. I walk up to the counter. The lady's speaking Flemish. I'm speaking English. I still get my cheeseburger meal in 5 minutes flat, because you can do the McDonald's dance in 2 different languages and it still works because of consistency. What about Apple? What about Apple? Jump in. Tell me about Apple. This is my favorite one. First company to reach 3 trillion in valuation. So innovative. Great. Thanks, Cecilia. What about seamless design? Okay, so we've got innovative and design come up almost directly, right? Innovative, premium ecosystem. I like that. So you get trendy, easy to use, but intuitive. But those first 2 answers were, the design element plus innovation. So Apple have never broken their promise of beautiful innovation. Now, I'm old enough to remember when they had those cool desktop computers with the clear colored backs, like the back of the computer was a colored plexiglass. You could see into the computer, and it was beautiful colored circuit boards. Steve Jobs' obsession was making the innovation beautiful. So, and they've kept that promise, haven't they? They do not make cheap, ugly products. Let's do one more. Google search. When you think about Google search, what are the words that you think of? And notice in your answers, a lot of them are very similar. Even like the design part, Zach called that premium. It's like design, it's elegance, it's a premium product. Fantastic. What about Google search? What words do you have? Easy to use. What else? Google, fast and easy. Find everything. Fast, accurate. Really good, Zach. So we know it's fast. So that came up a couple of times. Fast. And what kind of answers do you get from Google? What kind of answers? It's fast and it gives you what kind of answers? Relevant. Thank you, Lisa. Fast and relevant. So Google have kept their promise to you and got better every year at being faster and more relevant. And that was their promise, and they kept that promise. And all they had to do every year was get a little bit faster, a little bit more relevant, keep getting better. Until ChatGPT came, they owned 90% of search on the internet. I think they're pretty much freaked out right now by ChatGPT, but this is, each of these companies are just keeping this value proposition, this promise to you over and over again, makes you addicted. But you also personally have a value proposition. Feel free to take screenshots, of course, of anything that's interesting to you. All right. So when it comes to you, how do you work out your value proposition? It's the value you bring to a project, team, and organization that will make the biggest impact. And what is that? It's the value you bring. So you might have a lot of skills around, particular, technologies or strategies, or know a lot about business, but the value you bring to a project is what's going to make the biggest impact. So what is that? So I think it's really good to start thinking about what is my superpower or superpowers? Because usually I find that when we really look at what someone's value proposition is, personally, it's actually 2 or 3 things together that make you really unique and valuable to the marketplace. So what do you know a lot about? What are you naturally good at? What do most people ask you for help with? That's a great clue. For me, it was always coaching. People, whatever job I was in, people would always ask me to coach them. What feels really good when you're doing it? What do you have a lot of curiosity about? What are you passionate about? So when you start to put these things together, if you go through this list and you just start to make notes for yourself, what you're going to find is that there's 2 or 3 things that you put together that make your superpower. A combination of 2 or 3 things. Now, for me, those things were teaching. I'm really good at teaching. That's just a natural skill that I have. People always say you're very pedagogisk. We don't have a word for that in English, so I'm glad I have a Swedish word for it. And then I'm really good at coaching people, helping people create a strategy to move from where they are to where they want to be. And people tell me I'm inspiring in terms of the way I do that teaching and coaching. And when I'm on stage doing seminars and workshops for our big clients. So teaching, coaching, and inspiring are the 3 things that come together for me to make my unique value proposition. And when I really stop and look at it, what I can do is I can then boil that down to 2 things. The things that I put together are insights and inspiration. I'm really good at using insights and turning them into inspiration and action for people. So that's my value proposition. Yeah. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat. I'll take them as we go, and I will do exactly. Yeah, I will do my best to answer them as we go. A little bit of a difficult chat window here. Great. All right. But if you have any questions, drop them in the chat and I'll pick them up as I go along. But I will have time for Q&A at the end. But for me, if you can sit down and really work out what is my value proposition, then it gets much easier for you. So as a coach, I give insights and inspiration. As a workshop leader, I'm going to give you insights and inspiration to move forward and manage change. And once you realize that you do have a value proposition, everything gets easier. So what is yours? Please take the time to work out what that is. For me, this is the game changer. And then what we can do is start to think about putting that into an elevator pitch. So every day I help individuals, teams and organizations manage change using my skills in creating inspiring and insightful workshops. So I'm dropping my value proposition in there so they can perform at their highest level and can achieve greater business success. So as you go through, one of the things is that if you can get your value proposition down, get it into 2 words, and then start putting it into an elevator pitch form, you're going to, number 1, create a great LinkedIn summary, but number 2, you're going to be able to tell the market what effect you create, everyday I. So what effect are you creating? Using my skills and talents. So what skills and talents do you use to make it happen? How are the people you work with changed by working with you? And what do they ultimately get by working with you? So my example is at the top there in black. Every day I help individuals, teams, and organizations manage change using my skills in creating inspiring and insightful workshops so they can perform at their highest level and achieve greater business success. That's my elevator pitch. What I would like you to do would be to, number 1, get your value proposition, and then start to really think about this in an elevator pitch format. And what the elevator pitch format that I've given you here does is it gives you a framework for you to put all of your value into a very short text. Now, we have a couple of questions. It feels much harder to figure out a value proposition for a person than a company. Can you give me some examples of personal value propositions? Yes, I can, Anonymous Del Targete. So an example would be, for me, as you said, insights and inspiration, but you could also be a strategic team builder. You could be an analytical problem solver. You could be a lot of different things. It doesn't have to be sort of, not everything is touchy-feely. Like, I'm a technical expert and I'm an expert in building technical teams. That's a value proposition. If you're in sales, I'm an expert in your value proposition might be B2B sales excellence. It could be really, really simple like that. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be super creative. Mine's a little bit more on the abstract side, because that kind of thing I do, coaching, is a little bit abstract in its format. But for somebody else, it could just be really, really simple. If you're a chief financial officer, I turn business information into business strategy. That could be your value proposition. And you could boil that down to insights to strategy. Really short, really powerful promise. Yep. Do you have any tips on how to? Yep, Dennis, I think I'm covering that. Great. Rather than focusing on general skills like you mentioned, I find that most recruiters place emphasis on clear KPIs and measurable results. I think you need both. I think you need storytelling and evidence. And when you're going out to the marketplace, the storytelling is the key that opens the door. And once you're in the door, then you can present more evidence that will allow you to show the results that you've got. But at a high level, because we're going to be I want you to be pitching to the marketplace all the time, rather than just when it comes to having a job interview. I would love to see you having a really clear value proposition that you can share over and over and over again, so that when you're at networking events, when you're meeting people, what do? I turn business insights into business strategy. Like, that's a great value proposition to share with people over and over again. It gives people a lot of clarity. Is this when you phone a friend? Seems a bit hard to pull this out yourself. Yes, Elsie, I think it's really good to ask other people, but you can also look at your personal history. So, Elsie, what I would say to you is, how have you done every job that you've ever had? Like, what is the similarity between all of the jobs and roles that you've had? So I'm just going to give you an example. No matter what job I was in, I ended up being the coach and the trainer. It happened when I was running the drilling machine in the factory. It happened when I was a salesman. It happened in my next job. I just naturally end up being the coach. For you, Elsie, what do you always end up being? Are you the person that sees the big picture? Are you the person that sees how to turn the big picture into strategy? Jump on the chat and tell me, what is it that you always end up doing that is very like the connecting glue between all of the jobs and things that you have? I'm sure that you can think about that and think about it that way. And of course, phone a friend, ask people around you, what do you think is the value that I bring the most? It's a really great question to ask your circle of people. But I'm sure, Elsa, if you sit back and think about, what position do I always end up in? I always end up being the person who takes big picture into operational strategy. I'm always the person that builds a connected team. I'm a trust builder. I'm a storyteller. I'm a coach. What is it for you? There's probably 2 or 3 things that come together to make your unique value. So I would really love you and encourage you to spend time, and you're going to get a link to this recording of this webinar if you want to go back over what I'm telling you. But really work out what your proposition is, and then write yourself an elevator pitch. because the process of doing that brings you that clarity. And almost nobody can tell you what their value proposition is off the top of their head. But if you sit with them and work with them for 15 minutes, they've got it. They understand it. I'll tell you a quick story. I was working with PwC at one of their big company-wide events a few months before the COVID lockdowns. I remember it specifically because it was one of the last things I did before I got locked in my apartment for 15 months. And there was a gentleman there and said, I don't have a value proposition. I can't think of what it is. And then I sat with him and worked with him, and he says, I've got it. I'm a person who can sit and stare at complex information for a very long time until a pattern appears, and then I can see the deeper pattern that's hidden in all those numbers and figures. And I was like, wow, what an amazing value proposition. You're a detective of deep patterns hidden in the data. So really great example of somebody finding what their value proposition is. And you've never seen a guy get happier. Like, he felt like a superhero after that. And he's like, I can't wait to tell everybody this and share this with everybody. And so it's also a great confidence builder for yourself to know the value you bring and be able to communicate that value. It will also help you think about what job opportunities are a good opportunity for me, where I will be able to use my value proposition, my skills and talents and wisdom, my unique offering in the most maximum way possible. I've got solving problems, finding the best persons to perform a task, networking, process developer. So I've got an answer here on the chat. Really good at solving problems, finding people to perform tasks. They're really good at networking, and they develop processes. So this anonymous del Tagare, what I see about you is that you prefer to work on sort of a higher level and have other people perform the solution while you create the strategy and the plan for that solution. So you could do something like, you could have a value proposition, something like, I am really good at strategy and planning could be like your value proposition. My superpowers are developing strategy and turning that strategy into an operational plan that can go fast and solve the problems. So, you're a very, you could also, depending on some of your other attributes, for instance, networking skills, it's like, I'm a networking, like I'm a strategic networker and problem solver. So there's a lot of things you could pull out that would work. And so for you, solving problems, every day I create strategy through my strategy and find people to solve problems using my skills in process planning and networking so that companies can turn ideas into strategy and strategy into action so that they can have quick results in the direction they would like to move in. That's like a quick freestyle. I've only had 7 coffees, so maybe I'll be better after lunch. But I think it's really important that you start to bring these skills together. Okay, we've got like 12 minutes left. So is being curious a skill? Ingrid, being curious is one of the best skills because it indicates to the marketplace that you are a lifelong learner. So absolutely, that is this absolute superpower. And over the next 5 years, wow, curiosity is going to be an absolute superpower. And I think, curious people are often innovators, aren't they? In organizations, in their processes, how they do things. When they're at a meeting, they're always thinking about how could we do this better or how could we do this differently? So yeah, curiosity, bring that to the table 100%. My superpower is connecting with people. I'm highly sociable and can easily build rapport with individuals and groups. Wow, you've almost got an elevator pitch right there, Zach. All you need to do now is to put it into the professional area that you're in. So Zach, what professional area are you in? Jump on the chat and just drop that in. I'll see if I can freestyle a pitch for you. Lisa, I'm a people person. insights. I organize and enable others. Great. So, you know, you're a strategic coach, and Lisa, I'm a strategic problem solver who coaches teams to move forward and grow and develop. It could be something like that. Yeah. Zach, what area are you working in? Which is it? Communications, HR? Tell me and I'll try and help you with a quick elevator pitch. But one of the things, once we get our elevator pitch down, one of the other things to really think about is our journey story. How did you get where you are? Because your journey story is actually one of the most interesting things that you can say at a job interview, and one of the most memorable things. Now, I shared my mullet with you at the beginning of this talk. So I told you my journey story from the drilling room to a salesperson to the world stage. And, you know, what a journey it's been. And of course, you know, thank you to my boss at that time, Grant Evans, who I'm still in touch with, for seeing that spark in me and taking me from blue collar to white collar and changing my life, literally, the direction of my life. But what is your journey story? And if you can start putting how you got to be this professional person you are now into a journey, where did you grow up? What did growing up there teach you? What did it make you do? What did it force you to do? And because of that, you decided to do something. And along the way, I met a person or an opportunity or a situation or a challenge. So I decided to do this, which is why I'm here today doing this. So you sort of create a circle. And I'm going to give you a great example of this. I was teaching this to master's students at Hyper Island a few years ago. And this guy said, I don't have a journey story. And I said, okay, where did you grow up? And he said, I grew up in a town in Sweden that was so small, we called it the town that God forgot. And I was like, my God, this is the best opening to a journey story I've ever heard. And he said, and I said, and what did growing up there make you do? And he said, there was nothing there to do. So my friends and I got into graffiti art. And I said, and what happened from the graffiti art? And he said, then I studied graphic design. I was like, amazing. And what did you do with graphic design? He said, I ended up founding one of the award-winning graphic design studios in Sweden. And I was like, and you're telling me you don't have a journey story? You went from the town that God forgot, you became a graffiti artist, you decided to take that graffiti skills to graphic arts school, you founded this amazing company which now works with some of the biggest brands in the world because you're from a town that God's forgot. So everyone's got an amazing journey story. And if you actually, you know, tell this story, you know, out loud at networking events, it's a great way to connect with people. But one of the most important things is stories are what people remember. The human brain is literally wired and designed to remember stories. So if you are at a job interview or someone says, tell me about yourself, your journey story is an absolute great thing to share. It's like, well, let me tell you how I got here. And then you tell your journey story, and that usually leads to a lot of conversation happening. And a few years ago, my wife, she finished university. She studied to be an audiologist. She'd been an opera singer before that, so she'd done auditions, but not job interviews. So she was super nervous. Of course, I taught her all this stuff, but we really worked on her journey story. And she said, as soon as I got to my journey story, they stopped asking me questions and we went into a really deep conversation. You know, I went from being a soprano to a hearing expert. So I think that the journey story is also a great conversation opener. It shares your value in a very interesting way, but it also connects people. People love to hear backstory. People are addicted to it. You know, we watch documentaries all the time on Netflix about how did Billy Joel, you know, I was watching a Billy Joel documentary yesterday. How did Billy Joel become Billy Joel? How did Michael Jordan become Michael Jordan? How did you become you? This is a really important part of the puzzle. All right, next slide. So the next thing I just want to say as we come towards the end is I want you to think about reputation all the time. A lot of people think reputation is something that just follows behind them. And, you know, if you look in the dictionary, it says reputation, the opinion that people in general have about someone or something, or how much respect or admiration someone or something receives based on past behavior or character. And while I think this was true in the past, I also think that we have so much influence on our reputation now because we can build a personal brand and share it with the marketplace. And so your reputation in the marketplace could be something that you curate. So when I first moved to Sweden, I noticed most people didn't wear ties. I'm not wearing a tie today, but I decided I'm going to wear a tie all the time just to differentiate myself in the marketplace. And then part of my professional reputation came from being very well dressed. Last week I was on stage in Amsterdam. I was wearing a beautiful new blue suit with a navy blue tie, looking fabulous. And this guy came up to me and goes, I haven't seen someone wearing a tie in like 20 years in the Netherlands. It's almost against the law, but you're rocking it. So sometimes you just take small things, you put them in the marketplace, it becomes a reputation. And for me, we should be thinking about curating our reputation all the time in the marketplace now. We live in an attention economy. We want to have people thinking about us, but we also want people to be not only be thinking about us from our past behavior, but we want to be reminding them of our value proposition, our journey, our skills, our thoughts as someone who's an expert in an area about current events that are happening, current trends that are happening. All these things build reputation. And I think that it's very important to consistently manage and build your professional reputation now. Don't leave it to chance. Most importantly, using social media, blogs, talks, if you get out there into the marketplace, you can have a voice. People can discover a lot about you before the job interview, about your expertise through blogs and talks that you post. Your co-workers giving you LinkedIn recommendations, your professional network talking about you, and of course, most importantly, the quality of work you do. Now, if you're in this workshop, chances are you have left a trail of amazing quality work. You're the kind of people that do quality work on a consistent basis, and that is still always going to be the number one thing that you can do to build or break your reputation, right? So don't just focus on the icing, which is all the things that I'm telling you now. Focus on the cake as well. But please understand that most of your value is hidden below the surface of the water. The audience doesn't see it. The audience doesn't know it. It's your job to make sure you're communicating your value, pitching your value clearly and cleanly to the marketplace. And the things that I've given you today are the things that I use in my coaching practice that have helped hundreds of people get jobs, elevate their positions, get promotions. They really work. So please spend time on them. Now we have a few minutes left. For questions. Zach, using your method, this is what I came up with. My superpower is connecting with people, and I'm known for being trustworthy and bringing a lot of energy in the area of marketing and communications. I use those strengths to build relationships, create engagement, and deliver messages that truly resonate. So that is a great first draft, Zach. Yeah, I would probably just take it a little bit and just trim a few words out, but otherwise it is a fantastic first draft. And you can already see that you have relationship, trust building, engagement, and delivering messages that resonate. And so you've got your superpower and the results it brings. Yeah, those relationship buildings and engagement that result in messages that truly resonate. Fantastic work. Yep. Ingrid says, I'm always in gym clothes since I'm training once or twice a day. setting new goals and skills I want to learn. So I guess I'm the stinky, sweaty lady. Hey, you know what? That would be a great thing to post on LinkedIn. You know, normally my value proposition's this. Right now, while I'm waiting for my amazing next opportunity, I'm living in gym clothes. I'm getting myself ready. I'm prepping my body, mind, and spirit for the next opportunity. That would actually be a very disruptive thing to put on LinkedIn and have a lot of fun with. It's great storytelling, isn't it, Ingrid? Anybody else have a question before we finish up? I would love to answer your questions. Anybody else? Just want to make sure I haven't missed any. How would you help a person rebuild their self-image after a round of layoffs when you feel you bring to what you bring to the table isn't enough? Feel free to drop me a LinkedIn message if you would like to discuss this in more detail. I'd be really happy to coach you on this. One of the things to recognize is that layoffs are not a personal view of your value in the marketplace. One of the things that we have in the marketplace right now, in the dynamic marketplace we're in, is that companies are downsizing, upsizing, changing shape radically all the time. They hire 5,000 people, they fire 7,000 people, and the next year they hire 3,000. The marketplace has never been more dynamic. A layoff is not a representation of your worth. It's simply as a representation of the business strategy they chose. Now, if you do the exercises that we have spoken about today and start to really dig into it, I want you to reach out to some of your previous colleagues and ask them for feedback as well on what your superpowers are. You're going to get a lot of great uplifting information. I was doing this once with a group of people, and a lady said, I don't know what my superpowers are. And I said, there was like 12 other people in the room. I said, hey, all other people, please tell Marlin what her superpowers are. And they all started telling her all this great stuff about her, and she's crying. This is amazing. So I would say two things. You are valuable. 100% you are valuable. And the second thing is reach out, get a circle of support around you of people who've seen that value in action, and ask them to tell you what it is. Write it down, stick it on a piece of paper, read it every single day. Reach out to me for support if you would like some. I'm reluctant to post on social media. Is it a must? I would say it depends on your goals, but it doesn't hurt. And social media is a beast. I have a very big love-hate relationship with it. My ego loves it, but on the other side, I think it's also a pain in the butt. But what I would also say to you is that I think if you're not that comfortable about boasting and posting about yourself, a great way for you to do it is to say, I just want to talk about this trend that's happening in the marketplace as a communication expert. So maybe share your expertise about a trend or a topic or a technology, something like that. It might lower the barrier for that. Maybe it's Jantelagen that stops you moving forward. I don't know. But maybe that will give you a little bit more bravery. All right. It's time for me to finish up. I'll just check if there's any last question before I do. I think that's about all we have time for. But feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have a question that I couldn't answer you right now. Super happy to answer those and connect with me. I'd be super happy to look at your elevator pitches or anything that comes up. And with that, I also just want to say a big, big thank you to Sarah. Sarah, do you want to come back in?
Thank you.
So thank you to everybody for joining today. It's been an absolute honor to be with you. You've got our email addresses there as well. Please stay in touch, and we will share a link to this recording as soon as we can with you all, and we'll send that out and look forward to seeing you at the next one.
Thank you, Malcolm. Och tack till alla som var med. Vi hoppas att det var värdefullt. Och connecta med oss på LinkedIn. Följ Hammer Hanborg, följ Malcolm. Så hoppas vi att ni kan ha fått lite inspiration för nästa steg i karriären helt enkelt. Tack!